garden tour!
Snake! Garden tour, oh yeah. Garden tour, oh yeah. Garden tour, oh yeah. Garden tour, oh yeah. Garden tour, gotta tour the garden, oh yeah. You want a tour of the garden? Well, the garden's right there. Just go take a look. You want me to give you a tour of the garden? I'm reading my book. Just go walk around. You don't need me to show you the garden. You just go walk around, see it for yourself. Okay. Alright. I'll give you a tour of the garden. Yeah, we'll do a tour of the garden. I need my hat though, so let me get my hat first. Alright, ready for a tour? Let's do it! Check out these sunflowers. Sunflower Alley. So this is the patio. These are seeds I'm planting today, all fall seeds. And if we just look around from the patio, this is the urban farm. Pretty cool, huh? So let's go walk around, see what we can find. It's kind of hard to find your way into the urban farm. So let's start with the squashes. Check out that spaghetti squash. Peppers, squash. We'll get around to everything else. We're gonna do it's gonna be kind of a whirlwind tour of everything. There's a lot to see, but. So as we go around these peppers here, these are jalapenos right here, like those ones, I don't know, but they're really cool. These are Zulu peppers. Korbashi peppers. Here's the artichoke. So this is pretty neat, so check this out. The artichoke has ladybugs on it. Ladybugs eat aphids. There's a wasp too. But yeah. Oh man, there are lots of bees on this, and not honeybees. That's interesting. I always wonder what they're getting up to. Here's some chamomile, German chamomile. Marigolds. These marigolds are about chest height. So pretty tall marigolds. Squash City. So there's a whole lot going on here. You'll see most of the squash, they're a lot of them are doing well, but a lot of them are getting powdery mildew, which is this white substance. They always get powdery mildew on them. I haven't figured out a way for that not to form. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't know how. As you can see, I have a bunch of marigolds planted around. That is pretty cool. I don't know what those are. I think those are the Japanese beetles. Weird. I'll have to look into that. See? There's always something new out here that I've never noticed before. As we walk around, as you just kind of pull back the squash leaves, you just see lots of random squash. Look at that. Yellow squash. Oh man. Check this out. Let's see if we can get to the garter snake. Oh, he's running. Or she, I don't know. Where'd he go? Oh, I lost the garter snake. So I hate snakes. They are my least favorite animal ever. And they're back here a lot. And they're just garter snakes, so they're pretty harmless. Unless you step on them and scare them, then they'll bite you. but they're not venomous or anything like that, so it's not going to kill you. I don't know where it went, but check out that squash. Another spaghetti squash. Oh my gosh. We'll see. I'm sure we'll run into more snakes. But yeah, I don't know if you could see that or not, but that was pretty cool. That was a pretty big one too. And it was moving fast. It hasn't eaten much today. Here's a melon of some sorts. I don't know if that's a watermelon or a cantaloupe or something else that I planted. It looks like a watermelon, but I don't know. I plant so many different things, I can't really keep them straight. That is bee balm. Here's a butternut squash. Go butternut squash. So you'll see some of these plants are dying. So an interesting thing about this area in particular, this was where a tree stump was at one point, and it was a really big cottonwood that had died and actually fell down on that fence before I bought this house, and that's why that part of the fence is new. But there's this huge cottonwood stump when I moved in, so I had it ground down, and there are still a bunch of tree roots. There are tree roots throughout this entire yard from it. So, but that area where those squash are not doing well is where that tree stump was. So I'm wondering if there's just such an abundance of, you know, organic matter from that tree that's causing those plants to do good or to not do so well. Which normally organic matter is good, but if you have a whole bunch of, you know, wood chips in one area, maybe that's not so good. There is too much, or there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. So we're going to continue along this side, and we'll wrap around the other way. So as we go around, you'll see, you kind of have to fight through the sunflowers. Let me go back out so you can kind of see this. So I made this little pathway going out from the patio to the fire pit. It's pretty cool. This is woolly thyme, I believe, maybe creeping thyme, something like that, that stays pretty low and just goes in between the pavers. Works out pretty well. This is dill. All the dill is volunteer this year, and I have dahlias around the fire pit, which is pretty cool. I haven't had really any fires this year because of how dry everything is. And yeah, I don't want anything to catch on fire. But yeah, here's more dahlias as we go around. You'll see this giant squash. Squash vine. I don't know what type of squash that is because there really aren't any fruit on it yet. But I think it's a blue Hubbard, because the blue Hubbards can get up to 30 feet long for their vines. So I think that's what that is. Check that out. Oh, I think that's a bee. I don't know. I've never seen one of those back here, whatever that was. That was cool. I hope you could see that. This is mint. This is mountain mint, which is awesome. It is so tasty. If you haven't had mountain mint, you need to try it. It's much better than normal mint. Very, very, very minty. So here's more squash. Keep an eye out for snakes. So snakes just love it out here. Lots of places for them to hide, lots of food for them. They do like to get below. There's one. There's one. Oh. I don't know where it went. Or if you saw that. Just a garter snake. But they like to get below the landscaping fabric, and because it's really warm under there. So that is one of the many downsides of landscaping fabric. But it keeps the weeds down. So these are pumpkins. They are currently pumpkinless. There is a really cool, we're gonna go kind of back here into the squash again. This is hairy vetch. Has the worst name of any sort of plant, in my personal opinion. Hairy vetch. Oh, where's the blue Hubbard at? It's around here somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So check this out. This blue Hubbard, if we can get a good shot of it, just found its way on top of this stone there. It's just kind of hanging out there, getting nice and big. It's awesome. I had a pumpkin do this last year in a different part of the yard, where it just found its way on top of a paver. And I don't place them there or anything like that. They just find their way there. Kind of makes you wonder if these plants have a way of thinking. Obviously they don't have brains or anything like that. It kind of seems like they have a way of thinking and finding their way onto things. That's a bit different from how we think. It's kind of cool to think about. So, but yeah, there are more squash back here, all sorts. Some onions. These are volunteer onions from last year. So I normally have onions that pop up from the year prior, and they get nice and big early in the year, and I just kind of pick them throughout. And then the onions that I plant in the spring normally aren't really ready until the fall. So, just seeing what else to show you. This is where the garlic was. And as you can hear, I am the joys of an urban farm. I am in a neighborhood. Yeah, it's really fun. But this is where the garlic was, one of the areas where the garlic was. The garlic was also over there on the other side of the fire pit. So once I pulled the garlic up, I have all this real estate that I can use for other things. So I have planted fall crops here. And this is sage, which I planted there last year, and it just came back, which makes sense. So I'm just letting it do its thing. Yeah, I planted some fall crops over here, including a pumpkin, or a few pumpkins. That's kind of an experiment just to see how they do. Planted a midsummer or late summer, really. I'm just seeing how they do. Don't know if it'll actually do anything or if they'll get any fruit, but we're gonna find out. As we go along here, more dahlias. These are the Kelvin floodlight dahlias. They're really cool. There's a beetle or a bee. No, that's a beetle. I think that's one of those Japanese beetles again. I need to look in to see what those are. But yeah, see? These flowers are pretty big and awesome. They're dinner plate dahlias because they are the size of dinner plates. I love plant names because they're almost always so obvious. Ground cherries are amazing. So this, I actually didn't plant, but it's doing really well. This all self-seeded. I had spring crops here, some of the spring crops here, and they all went to seed. I pulled them out and I put the plant carcasses under the landscaping fabric for them to go back from whence they came. And since I let them go to seed, they just reseeded themselves. So I'm letting them grow and do their thing. Here's chard. These leaves are gigantic. Onions. Tomatillos. So I haven't planted any tomatillos in I think 3 years. And every year I get freaking tomatillos growing, which is fine by me. I like them. But yeah, it seems like you only need to plant tomatillos once, and then you will have a never-ending supply of tomatillos for as long as you garden, which is really cool. Speaking of things that are cool, this is kohlrabi, which is also cool because it's in the name. These ones are actually not really doing anything currently. These purple kohlrabi I haven't really had any luck with. I had a bunch of green ones going. Oh, here's one. And they all got pretty big and I picked them. It was only a handful of them, but this is the first year that I've ever successfully grown kohlrabi, which is awesome. So it grows above ground, and it just is really awkward for how it grows. It has a single root that goes straight into the ground, and this little bulb forms. The bulb is what you eat, so you pick it when it gets to be about baseball size, and then you just chop it up. I usually bake them or stir fry them, and they taste great. It's kind of like a potato, but yeah, I don't know, just really awesome. More onions, tomatillos, whole bunch of flowers. So flower alley. Whoosh. Beets. Most of the beets I pulled up, but the ones that are left, I have not. And I'm just leaving them in the ground until I need them. And these ones are all pretty small still. Don't know if they'll really get any bigger. Here are the beans. So the beans have been going absolutely nuts. So these are blaw-heeled beans right here. The blaw-heeled beans, they get to be about 9 feet tall, 10 feet tall, something like that. They're ridiculous. And I harvested these probably like a week and a half ago. Got about 9 pounds, including the other beans that I have. I just harvested them the other day and got another few pounds off of them. And now, I mean, I pulled all the beans off of them that I saw, and there are already a crap ton of beans growing back. Some of these are ones that I missed, but it's just like this plant, the blaw-heeled beans, they just keep producing, and the plant grows like crazy, and it produces beans like crazy, and it's awesome. You can get so many beans off of that, and it takes up such a small amount of space. I'd highly encourage planting beans. One thing that I didn't show you is in the squash. I actually planted beans with the squash. Squash uses up a lot of nitrogen. Beans put nitrogen in the ground. Oh, bumblebee. I have to stop everything that I'm doing whenever I see a bumblebee and observe it, because they are awesome. So as you can see, I get distracted a crap ton back here. I'm also looking for snakes because I do not want to get bit by a garter snake or scare one, because they scare me when I scare them. So yeah, the beans grow vertically, squash grow horizontally. Beans fix nitrogen, squash use nitrogen. So they grow really well together. And you plant them together, you get more beans that way. You don't use up any more space because the squash are already taking up the vast majority of space, and the squash need a lot of space to begin with. So you can plant beans in between the squash, so you're utilizing your space better. So I did that back there. And I planted fava beans, soybeans, as well as other pole beans. Or other bush beans. I didn't plant any pole beans back there because I didn't want to put poles or supports back there. So they're all bush beans, which are bushes and don't need supports, because as we already know, names of plants in gardening are generally awesome, and the name tells you exactly what it does. Flowers. This was Strawberry Patch 2.0, which is turned into a weed patch with sunflowers that might have strawberries in there. When I went through and weeded it a while back, there were strawberries back there, and those plants were alive. But I do not know now. I think they probably still are, because strawberries are really hardy, and they're alpine strawberries. But it has turned back into a weed patch pretty much. So I need to get back here and weed it, but that's not really my priority at the moment. As we go back here, we have a ton of beans. These are dragon tongue beans, named as such because that is what a dragon tongue would look like if dragons existed. Again, names of vegetables are awesome and very self-explanatory. And how do we know if dragon tongues would look like that? Because that's what dragon tongues would look like. Come on, get with it. Okay, so I kind of skipped over these giant sunflowers. So these mammoth sunflowers are edible apparently. I've never tried them, but I'm going to this year, as long as the squirrels don't beat me to it. But yeah, this thing is giant. Like, check this out. That is massive. And they just, as they grow, they get really heavy and they just hang upside down. And they kind of look like street lamps. Here's another one. And they are just massive. Like, I mean, they're so cool. More dill. There's dill everywhere. Alright, getting back here. Blaw-heeled beans. Normal beans. And by normal beans, they are just normal green beans. Alright, going back. Ah! Marigolds. Going to the other side now. Middle section. These are fall crops that I did not plant. So spring crops that reseeded themselves. Came back and it looks like I perfectly arranged them there. I didn't do jack with those. They arranged themselves. which is totally fine by me, and I'm just letting them do their thing. Yeah, I mean, there's bok choy, mizuna, and I mean spinach. It just kind of all, radishes, they just all reseeded itself, which is what I was going to plant anyways and what I'm going to plant today. So that's fine by me. I planted some carrots over here for the fall. This is the other area where garlic was. As we go back, lots of kale, flowers, lots of flowers. So utility lines run back there. So I can't dig, so I just plant a bunch of flowers. I throw flower seeds. This also has utility lines, so I can't dig there, which is why there's a bunch of grass there, much to my dismay. I've been trying really hard to kill that grass, and it turns out that when you neglect grass and you just let it do its thing, it grows really well. So I actually have a really good alley of grass right here, which is really funny, I think. So yeah, I just let it do its thing. These are the bags I grew potatoes in this year. I harvested the potatoes. There's nothing in there, and as you can see, these sunflowers have fallen over. That's what these sunflowers do towards the end of the year. But these grow bags worked out great for the potatoes. They were awesome. We're gonna go back. These purple flowers are echinacea, by the way. And they're awesome. Check out that bee. Honeybees are the best. I really want to get honeybees back here, and I can have 4 hives per the city code, which is awesome. Here's my cabbages, or here are my cabbages if I want to use proper English. These are ready to go. That one's ready to go. I'm just letting them sit back here and see how big they get. I didn't think they would do well in this area because it's really shaded, but it's next to an area that gets a lot of weeds, and I put sunflowers there, so I didn't think they would do well, but they've been doing just fine. And also in prior years, I've gotten a lot of aphids and slugs on cabbages. This year, there's only been a handful of slugs, and I did spy some aphids on the broccoli, not the cabbages. They only lasted a few days before the ladybugs ate them all. So again, marigolds throughout here. And also, I have the cabbages back here, even though I didn't think that they would do well, because every year I rotate everything around. I rotate everything clockwise. It's on about a 5-year rotation cycle. So about every 5 years, the same thing will be in the same area. But this video is already a lot longer than I wanted it to be, so I'm not gonna get into that right now. Here are my compost piles, 2 of them in the ground. You do not need compost bins. Just a hole in the ground works much better. Here I have my shed with a whole bunch of gardening stuff in it. This is peacock broccoli, bunch of flowers, so I throw wildflowers along the side of the shed. This is broccoli. It's doing okay. My cauliflower is doing really well. This is okra. I just harvested some the other day. They are doing pretty well. Again, marigolds, they're all about chest high. Marigolds are smelly or very fragrant. They help keep all the pests away. Pests in general do not like fragrant things. These are eggplant. I'm trying to find, oh yeah, there's a bunch of eggplant in here. I just have to find them. Check it out. Eggplant. Eggplant. So eggplant, and now tomatoes. So my tomatoes, as you can see, they're just flopped over. So these poles are meant to be there to run lines to prop the tomatoes up. So you weave the tomatoes, or the lines in between the tomatoes, so they hold them up. I did not get to it this year, so my tomatoes are just flopped down on the ground, which is kind of cool because I've never done that before, and I've never seen anybody just let tomatoes do what tomatoes do to see what happens. They're actually growing really well. I mean, I just have tomatoes on the ground, and it doesn't seem like any more bugs are getting to them than normal. There are some bugs on them, on some of them, but that happens anyways. but I've still gotten lots of really good tomatoes. They're just kind of flopped over on themselves and on the ground. But they do just fine. As we go back here, here are more peppers and the strawberry patch, which is next to the patio. And sunflowers. Who doesn't like sunflowers? Those are tomatoes, peppers, lots of peppers. These are shishitos, which are awesome. Shishitos are great. So I have a million pepper plants. I thought I heard a snake. Nope. Alright, strawberries, still producing. This is basil. I planted basil in this whole row and it only popped up in this one area, so I don't really know what the deal is with that. But yeah, normally over here I leave a walkway so I can actually get back behind the shed and whatnot, because there's a lot of space back there. But the sunflowers just overgrew it this year, which is fine by me. Patio has a bunch of hanging plants on it. I start all these from seed. Everything out here I start from seed. And yeah, that is the urban farm. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Yeah! Let me know if you have any questions, and happy urban farming. Woo! Garden tour, garden tour, garden tour, yeah! Garden tour, garden tour, garden tour, yeah! Oh yeah! Garden tour, 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 gotta tour the garden, oh yeah! Ah! It's a snake! Garden tour! Ah! Snake! Garden tour, oh yeah! Garden tour, oh yeah! Garden tour, oh yeah! Garden tour, oh yeah! Garden tour, gotta tour the garden, oh yeah! Ah! It's a snake!